everyone. My name is Zach, and this is going to be a special episode of my 100% Assassin's Creed Revelation series. Basically, I'm recording this about a week after I just finished this. You can see I got all the achievements for this, the Ezio Collection. Just completed the DLC last week on Sunday. But in editing and getting ready to upload my, one second. Get ready to upload my, sorry, I just had to turn down my volume because I thought it was being too loud. And getting ready to upload my, most recent uploads, episodes where I complete the main game, Assassin's Creed Revelations. I wanted to create a special video where I take the time to go over every single database entry here. It's the only thing that I have not done in this series. I have done everything else you can possibly do in this game except for showing off the database. There is a lot of entries to go through, and it would take me a long time, like easily, I feel like it would easily be over 40 minutes for me to just read every single entry. So what I will do instead is I will read only the things of interest. So I will read the notable characters, and I will read the targets. But I will not be reading anything else. Because if you want, you can go in and pause the video and you can read it here. But because of the fact that this episode will be easily like an hour long, at least I feel like it will be, if I were to read everything out, I'm just gonna instead just show these out on screen. If you want to read it, pause the video and watch it. Otherwise, just go ahead and skip this. This is 100% skippable episode. There will not be any progress. But if you are interested in seeing any more progress done from this channel, pretty much all I have left in terms of uploading is showing myself completing the DLC. The DLC, honestly, is one of my least favorite DLCs of the entire, of all the DLCs made for in Assassin's Creed. But I still had my my own fun with it. There was still some things I enjoyed. But have that to look forward to. But in the meantime, I'm just gonna be going through each and every one of these categories. And I can understand that people will just be bored if people just want to skip this. You can skip it if you want, but for completion's sake, I want to complete this. I want to show this. Because it's really kind of interesting to actually learn more about this stuff because Assassin's Creed is all based on history. So it's always kind of interesting for me to read more and learn more about it, but I can understand people aren't really interested in that. But it's here if you want it. It's here if you're interested. But next Sunday will be the first stream of me playing Assassin's Creed 3 for 100% completion. So if you want to see a series live as it is just coming out, just being created, tomorrow from 1 p.m. to 3 Pacific Standard Time, and this is, tomorrow is September 19th, and I will try and have my, things uploaded by then. Feel free to check it out. Meantime, we are approaching our contacts and our target, so Prince Ahmed, By the time he was a young man, Prince Ahmed was already the presumed heir to the Ottoman Empire, having been chosen by his own father Bayezid II to assume the role. To many, this made perfect sense. Ahmed was a grateful and loyal son who shared his father's distaste for war and his affection for esoteric knowledge. But to others, those who reviewed. I was just checking something. But to others, those who viewed Ahmed's traits as weakness, he was a sad symbol of the dwindling power of the Sultanate. And as such, he appeared to many Ottoman officials to be incapable of adapting himself to the requirements of the throne. The Sultan's own janissaries were quite vocal about their dislike for the would-be Sultan, and openly questioned his fitness as leader. Would he protect the empire, as was his duty? Would he wage war against the Mamluks to the south, whoever those are, and the Safavids to the east? Would he expand the boundaries of the empire as God had decreed? The Janissaries wanted positive answers to these pressing questions, and had no faith that Ahmed would provide a satisfying answer. At some point around 1510, Ahmed's youngest brother Selim, with the silent support of the Janissaries, made an overt bid for the throne, marching a small army towards Constantinople, expecting to meet little resistance. To Ahmed's great relief, his father Bayezid stepped in to stop Selim's advance, but the old Sultan was sickly, and as many would thought, incapable of sustaining an internecine war as mad and tragic as this one was shaping up to be. Prince Ahmed, I believe, was the main antagonist of this series, this game. Niccolo Maffeo Polo, brothers born in Venice around 1230s CE, Common Era or so. These two seemed bred from birth to be explorers. The early 1250s, they left their native country for Constantinople, both barely 20 years old, with dreams of cashing in on the ongoing Latin occupation of the ancient city. That same year, they opened a trading post and quickly established themselves as men of vision and talent. Over the next few years, the brothers traveled between their new home in Florence, staying long enough to keep ties strong, and in Niccolo's case, father a child named Marco. But even the sacred domestic duty could not tame the fire in Niccolo's belly, and the brothers returned to Constantinople shortly after Marco's birth. In 1256, the brothers sailed south to Agra, and from there traveled to Masyaf at the invitation of a man named Darim they had befriended the previous year. Once they arrived, Niccolo and Maffeo Polo found themselves in the company of the legendary assassin mentor Altair ibn La'ad. It was a meeting that proved as life-altering as it was mysterious. After spending barely a month in Altair's company, Niccolo and Maffeo were changed men. Now devoted assassins, they left Masyaf on the eve of the Mongol attack, carrying Altair's codex and 5 strange artifacts. Their value immeasurable and their purpose unclear. After many weeks of hardship and tragic losses, most notably of the codex which unceremoniously fell into the hands of raiding Mongol party, the Polo brothers returned to their trading outpost in Constantinople and began the long process of establishing a functional assassins guild. Drawing on locals from all corners of the region, Greeks and Turks, Albanians and Jews, Genoese, don't know what that is, and Arabs. But their efforts could not erase their shame of having lost Altair's valuable codex, and in 1259, after hiding Altair's 5 artifacts with great care, they left the city they had called home for nearly a decade, and headed east to seek the reigning Mongol Khan on an errand that would only be completed decades later by Niccolo's son Marco. And Alara, she is the character we met when we arrived into Cappadocia. She was our contact. A Turkish woman born in the Topkapi harem, Dilara was raised from birth to honor the Sultan and his family, and trained to desire nothing more than a fine husband and a lofty station in life. This strict set of boundaries did not please or amuse her, however, and she quickly gained a reputation as an ill-mannered and brazen upstart. This suited her just fine, as it did a janissary named Tarek Barletti, who quite admired her boldness. Taken by her charms, Tarek eventually agreed for her release to work as an envoy for the janissaries. Half out of kindness and half hoping this would win Delara's affections, it did not. It became a source of much grief for Tarek in his later years. And Tarek Barletti, this is the guy that we mistakenly killed because we thought that he would betray the Sultan. But he turned out to be a good guy, so Ezio kind of screwed up. Tarek Barletti was born a Christian Albanian, the second oldest male in a family of 4 brothers and 3 sisters. But under the Ottoman Devshirme system, where young boys were volunteered into the service of the Sultan, all of these little details about his early life were quickly made irrelevant. Under Devshirme, we were an Ottoman first and last. As unfortunate as it sounds, the system worked out for a lot of young men at the time. Unlike slaves sold and traded elsewhere in the world, children raised in the Devshirme system had a good chance of holding esteemed positions, such as becoming a vizier, or in Tarek's case, a janissary, one of the Ottoman Sultan's elite guards. Tarek was therefore a loyal Ottoman, and his hatred for the worldly Prince Ahmet was just as well known as his love and admiration for Prince Selim. This had the effect of swaying the loyalties of the entire Janissary corps into Selim's camp, so while the Janissaries remained technically loyal to their Sultan Bayezid II, they all harbored a secret desire to see Selim step in and take power. Because the Janissaries were a formidable political force in their own right, Tarek could say these things openly without fear or censure or recrimination. A bold man, to be sure. I honestly never heard that word, recrimination. I feel like that's related to criminals. Darim and Seth are children of Altair. The sons of Altair, Ibn Ahad and Maria Thorpe, born in 1195 and 1197 respectively. Both were raised as Altair was at Masyaf, trained to be assassins by their father, and diplomats and men of honor by their mother. But unlike Altair, who spent most of his early years separated from his father as part of Al-Mualim's training, Darim and Seth grew up in a house full of affection and love. Altair, though often stern, was a patient man too, a man determined to give his sons what Al-Mualim had given him, guidance and respect. Seth married quite young, and after his untimely death, his family moved to Alexandria at some point in the first half of the 13th century. It is unknown whether or not Darim had any offspring of his own, but we do know he eventually joined his brother's widow and children in Egypt. I would assume that, because I believe Seth was one that was killed, I believe that was what was mentioned. Darim had to have kids in order for Desmond to be alive. Maria Thorpe, fun fact, she is the, there's a mission in Assassin's Creed 1 where you are, what's that guy's name? That Templar that you first tried to kill in the introduction of Assassin's Creed 1, who you later kill or later tried to kill in Jerusalem or Acre or somewhere. Turns out to be Maria Thorpe in disguise, and Altair ends up sparing her and going after the real guy. I can't remember what that guy's name is, but it goes in a huge, long, dramatic battle in Assassin's Creed 1 in order to get to this guy. But Maria Thorpe was initially the Templar that was pretending to be him to try and lure Altair into a trap. So it's kind of interesting how Altair married a Templar. Since childhood, Maria had always dreamed of being a knight. A tomboy in her teens, she was often ridiculed by other children and punished by her parents for refusing to be a lady. Eventually, she left her native England for Jerusalem. After many hardships and trials, gained fervor with a few prominent Templar crusaders. In time, Robert de Saab, that's the name. She befriended the French Templar Robert de Saab. I believe that's actually how I pronounce his name, Saab. Earning his trust and serving as his decoy in times of war. When the assassin Altair killed Robert de Saab in 1192, Maria was pushed out of the order of the Templars by their new leader, Armand Bouchard. At this point, her hatred for Altair was limitless until he managed to show her the true corruption of the Templars through patient and careful counsel. I believe this was actually in one of the side games with Altair. I believe it was Altair Assassin's Creed Bloodlines. That actually takes you to Cyprus, I believe. In time after traveling, studying, and working console, Altair and Maria became close friends, then lovers. By 1193, Maria was as committed to Altair as he was to her. Having no reasons to return to her homeland, she chose instead to remain at Masyaf and immerse herself in the life and creed of the assassins. At the time Maria and Altair had their first child in 1195, they were inseparable, with their only prolonged separation occurring in 1204 during Altair's failed attempt to establish a guild in Constantinople. In 1217, now approaching 60 years old, Maria joined her husband and her oldest son, Darim, on a long journey east after Altair had determined the threat of encroaching Mongols was too large to ignore. Absent from Masya for over 10 years, the couple grew closer still, their lives entwined and their hearts aching for home. Another little fun fact about Maria Thorpe: when I first saw her in Assassin's Creed 1, I thought that she was the actual female Templar in history, Joan of Arc. And I thought that was actually her historical. I thought that was actually who she was, not Maria Thorpe. So that's a little fun fact about myself. And Suleiman. Everyone in the world knew this guy's name in the 16th century, Suleiman the Magnificent. They called him in the West the 10th Sultan of Osman's ever-expanding empire. His fellow Turks were also generous with their praise, though far more practical, calling him Suleiman Kanuni, or the Lawgiver. The man responsible for improving the empire's bureaucratic engine, making it run like a well-oiled engine. Bureaucratic? That's an odd sentence. No small feat for an empire as large as his, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Ahead of our present concerns, when Ezio met Suleiman, was still a young man with only the faintest hope of ever becoming a sultan. His father Selim was dead last in the Ottoman hierarchy, so as befitting a young man of his status and stature, Suleiman threw himself into the study with little thought of ever becoming sultan himself. He was educated at the University of Istanbul and received private tutoring in Topkapi Palace. Little else is known about his early years except that he was a kind and thoughtful man and that he had a servant named Ibrahim, whom he considered his best friend. By the time Suleiman was 17, however, Bayezid had recognized his grandson's talent and intelligence and installed him as the governor of a large region north of the Black Sea. Over the next few years, Suleiman would hold a number of similar positions until 1520, but when an unexpected tragedy robbed his father of the Sultanate, Suleiman, aged 26, took the throne, a position he would hold for almost 50 years. No pacifist, Suleiman would expand the Ottoman empires into the lands into. Suleiman would expand the Ottoman Empire's lands to its furthest points, and by the end of his rule, the lands under his command stretched from Algeria to the Persian Gulf, and from Austria down to Egypt. But for all his expansionist desires, he was a tolerant man too, and realized that the only way to keep an empire as large as his together was to honor the cultures, traditions, and religions of those living under his auspices. Okay, Abbas Sophian, he was the quote-unquote main antagonist of Altair's story. He was the guy that freaking Altair shot like a badass. Abbas Sophian, born in 1166, had a rather rough childhood. His father, captured by the Saracens in 1176 and tortured to the breaking point, vanished from his son's life when Abbas was still a boy. Assuming he had been abandoned, Abbas fell into a deep depression, which only his friendships and devotion to his mentor, Al-Mualim, could ease. But all this changed a few years ago when his friend and confidant, Altair, passed on what Abbas assumed to be was the cruelest of lies. Now, Abbas's father had betrayed the assassin order, while under interrogation, and had later killed himself to escape his shame. Infuriated, Abbas refused to believe this hard, unvarnished truth, a truth Al-Mualim refused to corroborate or deny. But from that point forward, Abbas regarded Altair as a liar and a deceiver, a man too devious and reckless to follow the creed's more austere tenets. As he grew into adulthood, Abbas matured into a skilled and respected assassin, but his personality always left something to be desired, humorless with an almost fetishistic. I think that's supposed to be relating to fetishes. Passion for the Brotherhood. I never heard of that word, fetishistic. He loved both Al-Mualim's favoritism as well as Altair's loose interpretation of the creed, but he remained a loyal servant for many years, always hiding his gnashing contempt for his former friend. Staying silent was difficult, however, and over the course of Altair's precipitous rise to the ranks of master and later mentor, Abbas found himself filled with a crippling hatred he could barely contain. It was only a matter of time before he burst. I don't remember seeing Abbas in Assassin's Creed 1. However, I feel like that it could be possible he was a person that Altair could talk to train with other assassins in Assassin's Creed 1. I'm not entirely sure about that. Next up is Al-Mualim. Records for this man don't go back much further than 1176 CE. Right around the time of the Assassin's confrontation with the Saracen general Saladin, I'd wager Al-Mualim was in his late 40s at the time, but it's hard to say. In any event, Al-Mualim was an accomplished assassin and feared leader. Calm but commanding, he led... God, breathing. Calm but commanding, he led his group of assassins into one of his most fruitful periods, treating his people strictly but fairly, with patience, honesty, and understanding. He had many admirers among friends and enemies alike, and was looked upon as a father by many of his apprentices. The great Altair ibn Ahad, most notably. Just checking, I'm at 21 minutes right now. I keep on having to check because I've had issues in the past where whenever I would try to record something through OBS, the recording would be interrupted or would be corrupted in general. And it's because I had something downloading in the background. I'm not downloading anything right now, so I'm hoping that everything will be fine. But I still need to check to make sure that I'm still recording. Because a good sign that something went wrong is that my recording just stops. That's why I keep on checking. Considering all this, Al-Mualim should have attained a legendary stature were it not for his rapid decline into corruption around 1191. After he got his hands on that first civilization artifact, the Apple of Eden, was no better than the Templars. He eventually succumbed to their way of thinking. Within months of acquiring it, he abandoned the creed and began blathering on about peace and order being achievable only through coercion and manipulation and all that. Cynical, obviously, but appealing too. That's the trouble with Templars in general. I think their philosophy is just so damn simple, so tantalizing, offering easy solutions to complex problems. Just do X, Y, and Z and all your problems disappear. That's what the Apple was for Al-Mualim, an easy solution to all the chaos he saw in the world. I 100% Assassin's Creed 1 3 times, and I've always kind of had an easy fight against Al-Mualim. I just kind of have my own tricks for dealing with him, and it all seemed to work out pretty well. I got another cough coming out. My throat's so dry. God. Sophia Sartor. Sophia Sartor, quite a lady, don't you think? Polylingual, multicultural, hyper-intelligent, and mature beyond her late years. We know she was born in Constantinople around 1476 and lived there with her family until the beginning of the Ottoman-Venetian War. That was 1499, a really bad year for Venetians living inside the empire. Sophia's parents dragged her back to Venice, but she can never forget the city where she was born. What's that saying? You can take that girl out of Constantinople, but you can't take the Constantinople out of the girl. Something like that. And what's the original saying? That's not the original saying. I feel like the Constantinople is replaced with the American saying, American city. I don't know. And that painting of her, I could stare at it for days. That's by Ardrex Durer. Hold on, does Sophia Sartor actually exist? Huh. Does she actually exist? Albert Dürer. That's an actual painter, and he actually painted an actual Sophia Sartre, and she wasn't a work of fiction. That's really interesting. It's a masterpiece glowing with warmth and color. Sophia's father offered Dürer a ridiculous sum to paint a portrait of his daughter. And when the painter finally saw this model in person, he declined all payment. And the honor of rendering her would be rewarded enough, right? Only hotshot artists can get away with stuff like that. God, my throat is so dry. Though her interests were broad, Sophia's primary passion was for literature, a love made possible by the invention of the printing press half a century earlier. The first time in history books were quite cheap and available to almost everyone. Sophia loved the democratizing effect of books, and it made her life's work to make sure everyone else did too. My reading is starting to take a hit. Harry Reese. Born somewhere in the Ottoman Empire, somewhere around 1467, give or take a few years, Haji Ahmed Muhyiddin Piri was not quite so mysterious as his vague origins may imply. He was an accomplished seafarer and officer in the Ottoman Navy. Bound by his early teens, he got his first experience as a privateer, sailing on expeditions of dubious legality with his uncle Kemal in and around the Mediterranean. By the time he was in his 20s, he and his uncle had both joined the Ottoman Navy, trading their rough freedom for respectability. In 1503, at the close of the Ottoman-Venetian conflict, Paris' taste for military ventures waned for a time, and he shifted his interest to intellectual pursuits, beginning a serious study of cartography. That's stuff with maps. In 1506, after some initial and unfortunate disagreements with the assassins, Perry joined their ranks, not as a warrior, however, but as a scholar and technician. All that he had seen as years as a sailor, he had grown bored of the artificial boundaries that separate nations from one another and felt the assassins offered the truest intellectual freedoms. Oh, it's so dry. In the late 1511, after the sudden death of his uncle, Perry took to the seas once again to study navigation and honed his drafting skills. That's map creating, I believe. By 1513, he had produced what would eventually be considered his most famous map. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what drafting is. A small work best known for containing one of the earliest accurate descriptions of the eastern shore south of. See, stuff like this that makes me wonder if Assassin's Creed characters like Perry Reese actually existed. Throughout the next few decades, Perry continued to make maps and perfect his skills as craftsman of rare artistic and technical talent. It wasn't until Perry was in his early 80s that he officially earned the rank of Reese, or Admiral, by which point he was a legend in the Ottoman Navy. Yusuf Tazim, I swear to God, this makes me think that Yusuf actually existed. I don't know, man. Jericho has some data on this guy, gathered a few years back, but there's not a lot about him in the standard history books, which I'm sure you'd be happy to know. Yusuf Tazim was a Turk born in Bursa around 1467, but was raised in Constantinople from the age of 8 by his mother. His father was an assassin, and presumably that's how Yusuf became one too. But there's no mention of what happened to Papa Tazim. Was he killed? Did he desert the family? Your guess is as good as mine. By the time he was 17, Yusuf was well known around the city as a rabble-rouser and a petty thief. But a chance meeting with the legendary Vizier Ishaq Pasha changed all that. Ishaq was assassin too, operating in the same sublime port right under Bayezid II's nose. It was Ishaq who had defeated Vlad Tepes and later brokered the tentative truce between the Ottomans and assassins. This Vlad Tepes. By the late 1480s, he was busy recruiting open-minded citizens of the empire to his order's cause. Yusuf was taken with Ishaq's charisma and easy manner of leading, so joined the assassins for his 20th birthday. From there, Yusuf's rise was swift and assured, and by 1500, an era, he had made quite a name for himself. 1502, Yusuf met with a contingent of Venetian assassins in Greece and a joint effort to steer the Ottoman-Venetian war to a peaceful end. These efforts appear to have paid off. From 1503, the fighting stopped, ushering in a brief era of peace on the Ottoman Empire's western border. Excuse me. Perhaps made complacent by the assassin's success in keeping the peace, Sultan Bayezid II grew soft in his final decade, preferring his mystical tests and alchemical experiments to governing. This suited the assassin just fine, for dull peace was preferable to an endless war with an imperial expansion. But following the earthquake in 1509, a new threat emerged in Constantinople. Templars fighting under the old Byzantine crest. During from years of relative calm, Yusuf once again roused his assassins to begin the long and difficult fight ahead. Rest in peace, Yusuf. Altair ibn Ahad, the GOAT, the original assassin. One man was responsible for changing the face of the modern assassin forever. It was this guy, Altair ibn Ahad. Born in the Holy Land in 1165 to parents he hardly knew, into an order he did not choose. Altair nevertheless proved himself a devoted pupil and capable fighter before he was out of his teens. In 1189, just as the Third Crusades were gathering steam, Altair shunned even his attentive mentor Al-Mualim by almost single-handedly routing away for Crusader soldiers from the steps of Masyaf Castle. From that day forward, Altair's name was known to all assassins. Over the next 2 years, his reputation as a stubborn but deadly fighter eclipsed every minor detail of his mysterious life. Loved by few but admired by all, his impeccable talents were the source of both his incredible successes and his overbearing arrogance. But this was only half the story. Since youth, Altair had shown signs of possessing a rare sense that allowed him to unprecedented access to the emotions and intentions of his opponents and allies. Dubbed Eagle Vision by his fellow assassins, Altair honed and perfected this sense in secret, always wondering if this curious ability that set him apart from the rest would prove a liability. Thanks to the memories stored in Altair's Moscow keys, we can now get a glimpse of the man himself instead of settling for vague glimpses through the Templars' frankly primitive Animus 1.28 avatar projections. Fun fact, Assassin's Creed 1 was the first Assassin's Creed game I ever 100%ed. And if they ever remaster that, I will for sure be playing that on this channel. Chapter 16. Hello, I'm Clay Cosmeric, and I'm a number Chapter 16. Yes, we're all reducible in the end, right 17? Just numbers, ones and zeros. I approve that. The day before I off myself, I created this slow, artificially intelligent construct talking to you now. Using the Animus and its incredible simulation capabilities, I copied myself, snapped that copy into 2 dozen pieces, and scattered them around these databases. Found them, and you pieced me back together. Not bad, eh? Teamwork. Right on the street, of course, is Clay, the real Clay, the assassin, Lucy's teammate. He isn't alive anymore. He slit his wrist, if I heard right. Damn shame I never got to see that for myself, but I can imagine. My head was, part of me, his head, was swimming with images of his last moments for weeks. Like he was rehearsing it. Planning just how he do it. I hear he even got around to finger painting on the walls of his cell before checking out. Is that right? Mad bastard. I miss him. I really do. Sorry, this is getting really confusing. The real Clay is gone and I have taken his place. Good enough, right? Good enough to still call me cousin, right, Desmond? Very distant cousins, you and me, because somewhere back along our extensive family chain, we both have Ezio to thank for the gift of life. Both of us are related to him. Wow. And both of us have had a nice little jaunts through his memories. Though I had fewer access to far fewer memories than you did. Figure that one out. I guess that's why you're so special. You're the convergence of several amazing bloodlines. But not me. No, I was just a very promising lead, a stepping stone to get to you. Oh well, I played my part. What more can a man say? Very little, turns out. I had no idea that Subject 16 was related to Desmond. Huh. I never got that from playing the DLC. And now we're moving on to targets. I was gonna do these in order, but apart from Shakalu and Paliologos, that's it. None of these look familiar. So I guess I'm just starting with Shakalu. Very little is known about the life of the legendary rebel leader Shakalu, except that he was born into an oppressed Turkmen tribe in eastern Anatolia. Though raised within the boundaries of the Ottoman Empire, Shakalu fell in love with the Templars after an Ottoman ambush left him orphaned and alone. Raised from youth by Safavid sympathizers and later Templar ideologues, that's a weird word, his hatred for the Ottoman Turks was matched only by his furious determination to eliminate all opposition to the Templar ideology. His uncertain partnership with Manuel has formed partly out of a shared sense of ideology, partly out of bitter convenience. Byzantines, after all, hadn't been much kinder than the Ottomans to his people. God, this guy was a champion. Was the guy you had to kill in the champion master assassin mission. Georgios was a force of nature, a pugilist with a reputation for incredible strength and brutality. In his teen years, inspired by a desire for worldwide recognition, he left Greece, participate in a series of fighting tournaments throughout the Thrace. I think that's near Italy, or is that in Italy? I don't know. I don't know geography, I don't know cities. After years of successful contests, his legendary exploits caught the attention of the Templars, and he soon became more famous and feared than he had ever imagined possible. Lysistra was the person you kill in the was it? I want to say it was the Vizier? I don't know. I'll just read it. Thespian. It was the Thespian. The master assassin mission, the Thespian. Thespian Lysistrata was a wealthy Byzantine woman living a life of luxurious disregard in the high societies of Constantinople. Powerful woman, popular woman in all circles, she indulged in the arts and other temperate pleasures at the behest of the Templars, who frequently employed her seductive charisma to influence Ottoman officials and Byzantine royalty, and now she's dead. And well, Paliologos, we killed him at the end of the Cappadocia. Born in the year of Constantinople's fall to the Ottomans, Manuel Paliologos, nephew of the fallen Byzantine Emperor Constantine XI, did not visit the city that might have been his until much later in life. As a boy, he was heavily influenced by the tales of his family's tragic fall from power, and with his brother Andreas, fostered early hopes of somehow reclaiming that glory, but this brotherly pact also fell to the ruin. Hold on. Yeah, still recording. Andreas, a friend of Rodrigo Borgia, main antagonist of Assassin's Creed 2, an acquaintance of the Ottoman Sultan's brother, Kim, living under house arrest in Italy. No idea who Kim is. Advocated a militaristic approach against the Ottomans to be led and commanded by the Templars. And Lo, on the other hand, preferred to a subtler approach. Less flashy, but more likely to succeed. At some point after 1485, Manuel moved to Constantinople and immediately began his presence known to the Sultan, selling the rights of his throne to Bayezid II for a healthy pension. He then joined the Ottoman Navy and converted to Islam, thus on the surface he appeared the very model of a modern Ottoman. Learned, curious, and proud of his adopted country. Andreas was, of course, furious at his brother, believing him to be a traitor, but of the two men, Manuel's scheme proved more viable, at least on the surface. By the late 1490s, Rodrigo's interest in helping the Paleologi, that's a weird word for me to say, retake Constantinople had evaporated, and Andreas had fallen deep into poverty, eventually dying alone and penniless in the gutters of Rome. Rip. sometime around 1502. I wonder, 1502, I wonder if that was when Ezio was in Rome and Assassin's Creed Brotherhood. But Manuel Flores, he grew fat and satisfied off his pension and the income pouring in from various other dubious concerns. By the time he was in his late 50s, he was one of the wealthiest people in the city, so did his wealth and success temper his plans for world domination? I'm going to guess no, but was he still bitter about the Ottoman occupation of the city? Most likely yes. Cyril of Rhodes was the vizier. I think he was the vizier, the master assassination of the vizier. Publicly shamed and humiliated by the Patriarch of Constantinople for actions unbecoming in the Eastern Orthodox faith. Cyril of Rhodes spent the last decade of his life plotting revenge against his former masters, never a true believer in the doctrine he once espoused so passionately. He used his nominal position in the church to erode it from within and further the Templars' ideology. Odai Dungas was the he was the Guardian, Master Assassination the Guardian. As the estranged cousin of the first Sultan of these... God, my throat is so dry. As the estranged cousin of the first Sultan of the Sennar Sultanate, Odai Dunkas fostered a deep hatred for rulers who claimed divine mandates. After being chased from Eastern Africa by his own family in 1505, that's rough. He traveled north to Alexandria and soon found solace in the Templars' worldly ideology, each through enforced order and stability. Calling himself the Guardian of Truth, Guardian of the Truth, he joined the Templars with the goal of making his worldview a reality. That must be rough being chased out of your own country by your own family. God, imagine if I'm chased out of America by my parents. Kind of thing what I have to do in order to have that happen. Damad Ali Pasha, no idea who that is. Hailing from Eastern Anatolia, Damad Ali Pasha was a well-respected Sublime Porte official and servant to Sultan Bayezid II. But this might be the vizier. But in his later years, as the Sultan's ambitions for world conquest dwindled, Damad's loyalty all but evaporated. He came to feel that the Templar philosophy was the only worldview capable of bringing about order and glory in a world where chaos and mediocrity seemed the norm. This guy was a vizier. I have no idea who this guy was. And Vali Seldradat. I don't know what this guy... I don't know. This is the first one we do, I know that. First guy we fought. Well, the Wallatian noble by birth. What the heck is Wallatian? Vali Seldradat joined the assassin in his early 20s. He remained faithful to the order for almost a decade until the day the assassins brokered a truce with the Ottoman Sultan Bayezid II. Sentinel. He was a sentinel. For the Sentinel, this was tantamount to treason. The Ottomans had shamed his people, conquered his lands, and murdered his secret idol, Vlad Tepes. Latching onto his disillusionment, the Templars recruited Vali into their ranks and quickly became one of their most feared killers. I was hoping you'll get some information on the very first target we find and we kill in sequence 1. Guess not. Locations. I will not be reading anything from this point on. I believe my voice will be happy with that. From this point on, I am just going to be showing the text and not reading. But, yeah, if you want to read all this stuff, you can. You can just go and pause the video and read it at your own leisure. But my throat is so dry, I feel like if I were to continue talking, I would just lose my voice. I'm going to do it anyway, just provide commentary. I mentioned in the description of my previous upload for Assassin's Creed Revelations that I honestly feel like there's going to be about 7 episodes before I complete the DLC. I think that it's more likely that it will be 4 episodes. Or maybe even 5. Because a lot of them is just me failing over and over and over again to try and get the DLC. And once I do that, I'm just going to keep the first build attempt and the last the last successful attempt, and I will just easily cut out like 30 minutes of failed content just to make it a little bit more enjoyable and more bearable for the viewers. But this series, Assassin's Creed Revelations, will be the first series I complete on my YouTube channel. This is the 4th game I completed, or really 3rd game, because Bonus 3 is still on hiatus. The 3rd game I completed on Twitch. First game was Assassin's Creed Brotherhood on the in the Ezio Collection. Second game was the Spiral Reignited trilogy, which I completed, which I 100%ed all 3 games in that trilogy. And honestly, there's some parts I found really easy. Other parts, I just kind of wanted to just be done with it. But that was a really fun game for me. If they ever remaster another Spiral game, I would be happy to play it. Really, I didn't really find the fighting segments in Spiral to be that bad. But because it really is just practice, I do better each time. What really gave me problems with, of all the game modes, was on the skateboarding segments in 3 and the perfect boss fights in 2, where I had to fight each boss without getting hit. That was a nightmare. But everything else is a lot of fun. I wouldn't mind playing that again if they were to refresh the achievements, or they release a different version of that. Okay. Almost done with this. Really trying to be quick about this, because we are at 47 minutes in the recording. I kind of wanted to show this because this is one thing the only thing that I can think of that I've not done in this game. And there could be people out there that care about the lore, so this is really all for you. I still think the Golden Horn being named for a port is a weird name. Oh no, I missed something. Damn it. Can I pause this? So I guess you're getting a little bit more progress with this game because I don't actually have everything. As far as I know, this is the only location I am missing. I haven't actually looked at any of the other things, but I believe the only thing I'm missing is something called the Obelisk of Theodorius, something. I don't know. But apparently it's found in the Hippodrome. I'm just gonna climb all the roofs. But I really was not expecting to actually freaking... Hold on. I just realized now that I ended my video, I'm actually uploading something. Pause, OneDrive, and now I can keep going. Last thing I want is for my game to crash, my video to crash. This should be the last thing I need, I hope, I pray. But, it's stupid. I was thinking I've done everything, and I haven't actually done everything, so you guys are gonna get something new, even though database entries don't really matter for 100%, but it matters to me. Must be an Egyptian art obelisk. I'm trying to get to it right now. Want to know where I'm going on the map? Right here. Almost here. There's supposed to be an Egyptian obelisk right here. How have I not found you? There we go. Obelisk of Theodosius. Unbelievable that I haven't found that yet. Been here so many times. Anyway, let's go back to the database. Locations. Cappadocia. Now, let's figure out if I missed something here. No, there's only one entry. Good. Masyaf, only one entry. Figuring out if I'm missing something else. Codex. So, people even care about bombs is here for you. And credits. Done. Database is done. I think that's one entry that I probably should have had. In any case, now it's 100% complete. My God, I can't believe I missed something. Those of you curious, I might as well just show this off. Even though I already showed myself having all the achievements. Might as well just do this. You're kind of getting a little bit sneak peek, but just to show you that this game is complete. 100% sync. So that's kind of like further verification that this is being, this video is being recorded after it is, been beaten. So, yeah. Ending the video here.